Hi, my name is Ruth Clare and I am the author of the memoir Enemy, which is a story about my experience growing up as a child of a Vietnam veteran. If I was to give you an overview of my experience being the child of a veteran, the first thing I'd need you to know is that for a long time I didn't think of myself that way. My dad never really spoke about his experience fighting in the Vietnam War. We didn't attend any marches. I didn't feel like I was part of a military community, and I really struggled to understand my dad's behaviour. My dad had very strict rules about what we were and weren't allowed to do, but those rules weren't always very consistent. If we made any mistakes or didn't live up to the standard that he'd set for us, or if we made too much noise, or if we took him by surprise, then he could become aggressive or violent. And so I spent a lot of my childhood just watching my dad walking on eggshells and hoping that what I was going to do wasn't going to set off his anger. And I got very good at trying to predict by the way that his knuckles would get whiter, or his breathing would become sharper, or the way he shook his cigarettes out of his cigarette packet. There were all these cues that I spent my childhood watching for, that I knew something was coming. So I could hopefully change whatever I was doing, or at least get out of arm's reach, so he wouldn't be able to hit me. Not having any context for his behaviour, I took it all on myself that I was doing something wrong, that I was a bad person, that who I was wasn't somebody that my dad could love. And that really stayed with me for a very long time. Part of the reason I wrote my book was to try and unravel the way that my dad's trauma impacted him, and to try to make sure that I didn't repeat those same sorts of behaviours with my own children. I think has been a really crucial understanding for me is the role of our nervous systems in the way that trauma has a long and lasting impact on our bodies. And I think it's the foundation of why there is that 20-year decrease in life expectancy after experiencing a lot of adverse childhood experiences. I think it's because, in the same way that when my dad came back from the Vietnam War, his nervous system was completely at the fight end of his fight or flight response, and really small things could set him off because he hadn't learned to regulate to normal society when he got back. I think it's the same with the kind of complex trauma that happens when you grow up in an unsafe environment. You're always on high alert. That nervous system response, that fight or flight response that's releasing all of those cortisol and stress hormones, all of those things that allow you, if you're out in an environment being chased by a tiger, they allow you to run away. All of that stuff is coursing through your body all of the time. And that's not meant to be the standard fuel and operating system for our body. And it takes a really big toll on all of our organs and all of our brain functions. All of those, that emergency mode in our body isn't meant to be where we live. Being constantly wound up is making you more reactive, making you make choices to try and do anything to calm that down, to reach for addictive substances. All of those coping strategies, which can also contribute to that lessened life expectancy. I think that's all a way of us trying to regulate our nervous system. If you are in an unsafe situation and you have got the autonomy, get out that situation. That's number one. You can't tell your nervous system it's okay to be out of fight or flight response if you're unsafe, because you genuinely should be on high alert. That amygdala, which is the part of your brain that does that scanning, that amygdala is also scanning your internal environment, and it's looking for cues that, are we okay? Are we safe now? It seems really easy. I know you've probably been told to breathe a lot of times in your life, but breathing is one of those things that's like almost an instant hack. It instantly tells yourself you are safe, because if you're trying to run away from a tiger, you're not going to be going, so doing that really low, slow out breath, making some noise when you do it, that's been something that's been really helpful for me. I don't know if you've ever heard of the tapping technique. There's a tapping technique where you speak some words. So you might say, even though I'm feeling really anxious and overwhelmed, I still deeply and completely accept myself. And you do some tapping and you do some breathing. And that for me, again, is a way of speaking directly to your body, going, we are safe, guys, it's all right. And you go through this whole series of tapping along all of these points. And ideally you do this with a therapist, because that whole human connection thing is really helpful, but you can do it. I do it by myself all of the time. My therapist said I should be doing it every day. Don't do it every day. But anytime that I feel myself getting in those little knots where you can't get out of your head, or you know that you're thinking you're overreacting to something, you've had some of your past experiences triggered, that's one of the things I do that really helps me to break that pattern. It helps me to feel like you're allowed to acknowledge that you're feeling bad, but it's all going to be okay. I like the fact that that technique starts off by saying, even though I feel like a big pile of crap, I still deeply and completely accept myself. It helps me also to feel like it's okay that sometimes you feel like crap, because sometimes you just do. It doesn't feel like it at the time, especially if you're having a really big emotional response to something, or if the trauma is really fresh. But this too shall pass is something that has been a phrase that I've spoken in my mind many times. Those really intense moments, they don't last forever. For a lot of people, especially if you've grown up in a family like mine, where you're told explicitly or implicitly that you're not meant to share the problems that you're experiencing at home, don't buy into that BS. Sharing your problem can be a really helpful way for you to see it from a different perspective. You can call, you don't have to pay lots of money. I have used a truckload of free services, free mental health helplines, and to know that, you know, sometimes you speak to people, they're not very good. Lots of people aren't very good at their job. That includes counsellors. That's okay. That doesn't mean you're wrong, they're wrong. That means not a good fit for you. Don't give up on yourself. If you feel stuck in your life in a certain way, or you can only think about things from a certain perspective, and you decide you're not going to give up until you find a different thing, you read books, you listen to podcasts, keep on going. You will find something. I absolutely 100% guarantee that if you don't give up, and if you keep trying to explore something and untangle the mess and support yourself and be kind to yourself and try the meditation apps and do all of the breathing and go for walks, you will shift out of the negative headspaces you are in. It is 100% going to make a difference, because our emotions don't last forever. And there are lots of different things we can do to help shift ourselves gently out of some stuck spaces that we're in. All I have to do is see a sunrise or a sunset, to feel like there are so many things in this world that are wonderful, and that if I put my attention on those, I feel so lucky. When you go out in nature, you get to see all of these amazing, beautiful details of trees and birds and rocks. Rocks are amazing. So really bringing your attention and focus onto the beauty of the natural world has been an amazing resource for me. Dogs. Dogs are the best people, and I think cuddling a dog, watching a dog play is always a way for me to feel really hopeful and like love exists in the world, even if I'm struggling to feel loved or lovable. Dogs always have love to give, and I think everyone needs their own dog. So that's some of the tips that I'd have. It's good.